Hi, Miss Morphew here. I've gotten some feedback in exit cards and in emails that there's some concern for stuttering through your speech or using ums and uhs a lot. We call that disfluency. And the opposite of that is fluency or smooth speaking. To preview this video, we're going to look at the intentional use of transitions in your story or your outline, your planned support that's going to not only raise appeals, but be organized so you'll remember what you want to say, and use of visuals. We'll also mention delivery practice that can help your fluency, like intentional vocal pause, or memorizing a few things so that you begin and end strong. To begin, for a story, you can plan and use some intentional transition words and phrases. Stories are generally organized beginning, middle, end, and they'll have the characters interacting, talking, maybe tossing in some good descriptions as they move through a problem to a resolution or a denouement. If you choose the intentional transition words and phrases that will guide that story along, you might hook in and remember those and be able to smoothly share the sequence of the story so that we care about your characters. In your expository, I like to use this graphic. You're going to have, for all of our expository speeches, an introduction, the body with all the good stuff, like 3 main points often, and the conclusion that's very simple, but kind of ends strong and holds the whole thing together. But within that yummy sandwich here, you've got transitions, transition words and phrases. Transitions are words and phrases that link ideas together. If you're writing, it helps the reader to understand how the ideas connect. And if you're speaking, it's like grabbing the ear of your viewer or your audience member and taking them along the journey. But they help you as well as they help the listeners, because again, you can cue into certain words and phrases. And by knowing what you're going to say next for those, it'll help you remember to smoothly say what follows. Those are like guideposts. And if you can remember some of the intentionally chosen transitions, then it can take you smoothly from ideas to stories to other ideas until you're smoothly finished. In fact, in our expository outline, there are 4 spots where you need to write down some intentional transition, probably that'll be said with whatever your main points are. So in our informative speech, you'll say, the first main benefit of this particular organization is this. And then every supporting idea will tell a story, give a reason, give an example, say a quote that support that benefit. But by knowing your intentional transitions, you can guide yourself along and you can guide us along. So let's talk about support. Again, what you plan out will help you remember. Very often, students like logos, they like the logic, and they think that research papers are all facts, facts, facts. Maybe some statistics and quotes in there too, but it's very logical. And logos is great, but you want to grab hearts and minds. So I suggest that you enhance your fluency by enhancing your planning with your support. Drapes is listed here. It's actually from a group of high school students who created the analogy to remember the acronym, to remember some different types of support that they could use to enhance their writing scores. My students have created a document you're going to get called Support Tools in Our Toolbox. And look at the variety, the things that you can use to flesh out each of those main points and to remember what you're going to say. You want to grab hearts and minds. We call that raising the appeals, ethos, logos, and pathos, right? And if you do that and you memorize those transitional words and phrases, then you may be able to go smoothly through what you want to say, rather than just have a lot of chunky little logical facts. Remember that visuals, we've said this in presentation tech, and remember that visuals can guide us along. I was just a little bit disfluent right there in a couple of spots. And if you'll calm yourself by realizing that not everybody's perfect and it's okay, you'll be all right too. Duarte's company has 5 rules for great presentations. We saw that during Presentation Tech Week, and follow those guidelines. Another thing that Duarte says will also help raise your fluency. Practice, practice, practice. Remember, the Learning Center is happy to help you as well if you want to say something out loud. And we know that you can do, if you're doing videos, speeches, you can do more than one take. The biggest delivery thing I could suggest is a vocal cue. It's the power of pause. Throughout this video, there have been times that I intentionally paused. That allowed me a moment to think, a moment of respite, a moment to realize what I was going to say next as I was using my visual to guide me along. The power of pause can enhance your vocal intonations, right? Can make the pacing a little more interesting, but it also can help you with fluency. Instead of saying, as you're thinking of what's next, you can simply pause. Those little moments of silence are really okay. My biggest little tip is to memorize your first lines and your last lines. If a speaker is going to mess up, those tend to be the spaces where it occurs. And if you mess up in your first line, sometimes you feel lost and you feel that you don't know where to go from there. And if you don't have your last lines, your transition word in conclusion, or to sum it all up, a chosen transition that says this is the end, that restatement where you give what your central idea was and what your structure of your speech were, like your informative, what the 3 main benefits were. And you don't have that closing line, that strong last line you're going to say, pause and look at the camera, and you might tend to ramble, or you'll forget to say it at all and you get all choppy, and that disrupts the fluency, the smoothness as well. Again, remember, you can use your Learning Center. They're absolutely happy to listen to you share your speech or flesh it out with those intentional transitions, that good support and strong organization, so that you can practice and deliver well and be a smooth talker.